Why am I never prepared? Alright, better go and get scissors. Who would wear a floaty top to paint? What an idiot. Hello, and welcome back to How to Hen. Today we're doing another episode of crafting with cocktails. Yay! I'm focusing today, in case you can't tell, you probably can't because it's not great. My makeup is watercolor themed because today I'm going to show you how to make some watercolored initial signage, boards, posters, whatever you want to call it, to put around your venue for your hen party. They're going to be nice and sort of pastel-y coloured, not like this. I went a little bit too rainbow bright with my face and then a little bit not rainbow bright enough with my drink. The tutorial, the video in which I do this face should be on my YouTube channel already, so I'll put it in the little card appearing above me now, or at the end there will be a link to it as well, or it will be in the description below. So many options, right? The drink, on the other hand, will only be found on Instagram under my cocktails story highlight. It was slightly more colourful. I made it pretty much just for the slow-mo effect of pouring the colours into the milk, which didn't even go as well as I wanted it to, and it also tastes pungent. Nice and sweet. It is basically just a glass of milk with stuff in it. But you can go to my Instagram at howtohen, all one word, to find out how I make it, along with every other drink I make for my Crafting with Cocktails series. So let's fire in, shall we? Because these videos are too long. Things you will need for this activity: some sort of canvas or board or large bit of card or piece of paper or whatever, in whatever size you would like. Either printed letters, which we're going to make into a stencil, or you can hand draw them if you like, if you are particularly skilled with your calligraphy. If you're particularly skilled with your handwriting, you could draw it yourself. This one I have made from a sort of photo card, not photo paper, like, it's not card, but it's sort of the card that you get for the printer. An actual photo paper. My reasoning for this being, oh, I've already smudged it, whoops. My reasoning being that the photo one is meant to resist the water bleeding through a little bit, because we are going to be using quite a lot of water in our paint, so when we're dabbing on it I don't want it to seep through and stain the canvas. I've no idea if this is going to work or not, so let's find out. Got your letters, paint brushes you don't actually need, you could use a sponge or just anything for sort of blending. Use your fingers if you want, blending the colours out. Scissors if you are cutting out your stencil bit. Paints, the kind of paints that you want, whatever colours you're doing your theme. I'm going to go quite pastel-y, so I have white, a sort of dark sky blue, a more royal purpley blue, actual purple, pink, oh so pink. And for an added bonus, I don't know if we're going to use them yet, gold and silver. I also have a gold Sharpie just in case I decide to outline it, and I have mochi tape that I'm going to double up on itself and use to stick the stencil down. Cup of water for mixing said paint, some sort of dish for mixing the paint in. I like this one because it has many places. By many I mean 3. Must remember not to drink the paint water. It looks pretty good though, right? What I would advise, I like advising things that I haven't done in case you hadn't noticed, is try and get your letter in the middle of this so that when you cut it out, you can leave the outer as a sort of inverse of your stencil. I might give that a go in a second video because it'll be too long for this one, but I couldn't figure out, because I was in a rush, how to get the S this size and in the middle of the page. So if you can do that, then you should. Also, depending on the font that you've chosen, might want to cut out slightly wide. You don't have to cut right into the edge, because remember, you're just using this as a stencil guide. So if it's getting a little bit thin in places where you think that could get flimsy, cut a little bit wider than the guide, because if you're going to be getting this stencil wet, the last thing you want to do is break it. Ta-da! And I've tried, I did cut a little bit too deep in some places, but I'm going to tape that back together to make an inverse of the stencil. Being resourceful. Oh, better. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take one of my S's. Let's do the photo paper one and see how that folds up, and place it on my canvas. Now, I couldn't decide on size, so I thought I was going to originally do it on this, because if you're doing it for like an entrance board or a sign as she's coming into the venue, you want to have it at the door, bigger is definitely better. Really, if you can get it bigger than A4, you want a bigger letter and a bigger canvas to really sort of make an impact. And also you could get a much bigger board and print out, you know, her name or all of her initials, etc. I'm just going to do the one to show you the technique, and then you can take it from there. I'm gonna test this one out, the photo paper one out, on the smaller, so on this little canvas here, because that fits quite nicely, I feel. So I'm gonna get my tape, and I'm gonna, double-sided tape would be better, but alas, I'm just using washi tape and rolling it in on itself and sticking it on the inside here. Oh, washi paper does not like coming off of photo paper. That is a good lesson to learn. Somehow I forgot that letters weren't automatically reversible. What a head. Okay, now it's the right way up. So now it's stuck on. We can start painting. Hooray! Now we can start painting. So I think what I want to do is start on the inside with darker, because I want to really stand the S out. So blues and purples on the inside here, and then fading out to the pinks. These paints are quite old. Or quite new, as the case may be, because this one's still got the foil on it. Just a little bit, because we're doing this sort of watercolour effect, so we really don't want it to be thick. Just like, even that's probably too much, because we're going to be adding lots of water to it. Now, I am aware that this is like a watercolour thing, and I'm not using watercolour paints, I'm using acrylics, but you know, most of you, if you're just doing this for like hen party decoration and you're just doing a bit of DIY at home, you might not have watercolour paints, and they can be expensive to buy. These big cheap ones you can get from most shops, and in my eyes, if it's just the sort of little effect you're wanting and you're not trying to create a masterpiece, these work fine. Don't drink the paint water. A nice big dollop of white, if I can. Let's get to mixing. All that I've put in here is way too much paint. Forgot to mention, you need something to wipe your brush off with. So I'm mixing it up until I get a sort of colour that I like, because at the moment it's all a wee bit too strong. I'm going to keep it like that, and essentially what I'm going to do is start painting around the edge and just keep adding water to thin it out. Okay, so I'm just going to start, I think. With this, you just kind of dab and see where it looks good. I'm not going to paint with like proper strokes, not really, or if I do that I'm going to water it down. So I'm just going to start here and make sure I'm sort of not doing it all in one place. So what I'm going to do is, now that I've got a little bit of blue in here, I'm going to scrunch this up and it's absorbing some of the water, which gives it that sort of watercolour look in places, so some of it's thicker than others. Now what's happened is, because of the brush strokes that I've used, quite jaggedy in places, which I don't love. So I think I'm going to change technique and use the tissue. Use one bit of tissue to put it on, use the brush to add water, and then use the tissue to take it off again. Let's see how that looks. Okay, I'm going to use the brush to just add a bit of water here to the edges, and then use a different bit to dab it. Now this bit you wouldn't stress too much about, because you're going to be adding more anyway. So I'm going to add a little bit of purple in here, and instead of trying to dunk this into that, which was stupid, I'm going to use the brush to put it onto this. I'm just painting it on here, and I just want to test that bit first to see how we're looking before I go any further. I think the toilet roll is being a bit too absorbent, so I am going to actually just go back to using the brush to blend it in, because the brush strokes are quite nice. They sort of add to that watercolour effect, but I am just going to start doing more sort of circular motions rather than the jabbing that I was doing earlier. Lots of water to help with the blending. Really what you want is a brush that doesn't have a straight edge. You want a sort of actual fine, not fine brush, but you know what I mean, a brush that comes to a point. Who did advanced higher art? Not this girl apparently. Okay, so what's happened is the harsh edges that we had in the blue under here are now faded away because of the blending that I did. We now have harsh edges on the purple, but we'll just keep blending that out to the pink, I think. So that's actually okay. I'm okay with that. So I'm just gonna go ahead, we don't need this then. I'm gonna go ahead and keep doing that, keep adding the purple. A lot of trial and error, but hey, what's new? It's drying very quickly, but that's okay, more water will solve that. The mistake I made this time around with the purple, when I started using the brushes, I put way too much paint on the brush when I was putting it on the canvas, and it's dried really quickly. So now I'm having to work really hard to sort of undo those edges that I made. Okay, so what I'm going to do this time is go back in with a sort of sky blue, lighter blue, more white, and just do a little bit at a time. I'm not going to like paint edges because what's happened here is I left these ones too long and they dried. So I really need to do it while it's wet. I'm just kind of going a little bit crazy at this point with where I'm placing it. It doesn't really have to make too much sense. As long as it gets lighter, the further out you go. So worth noting that my relatively sturdy canvas at this point is starting to give. I mean, it's not solid canvas, it's sketching pad, so the amount of water I'm putting on is starting to make it crumble in on itself. So really it should be a solid bit of card if you can, or an actual canvas. You can get them so cheap. So I think it's looking much better with the blue already, but I'm not loving this, particularly these bits of purple. So I think what I might just go back in and just make them a little bit darker, which wasn't really what I was trying to do, but I think it looks better than these gaps that have been left. I've also accidentally in my brushing been going like this underneath the stencil, so it's not going to be a neat edge, but that's okay as long as we have the general shape of an S. We can use like little droplets at the end to sort of smudge it a little bit, and hopefully you'll still be able to know what initial it is. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is go in with the pink and sort of spread out to the outside. Too much again, I'm going to have to paint something else. I'm just going to start, it's proper baby pink around the outside. And it kind of helps in this instance that the water is muddy with the blues and the, you know, everything that there was before. And this time I'm gonna go back in and blend sort of as I go. So I'm just going back, now that I've got all my colours in my palette, I'm just going back and adding them as I go. So because this pink is so light, I'm able to sort of add it straight on now without too much water, because it's already caked in water, and I'm able to use the toilet roll to sort of blend it that way because it's already really light, so it doesn't really leave the same marks as the dark purple or the blue. Okay, so it came out a little bit rougher than I would have liked, but we've got, you know, we've got a sort of outline, and it does blend out a little bit. It might not look super pastel-y because this stuff went on a little bit too dark, but before we take this off, I would like to add a couple of like splashes to give it more of a watercolor effect. Again, no idea how this is gonna work, so I could ruin it. Let's find out. So first one I'm going to do, just to sort of emphasize the purple that's already on there, is a couple of purple ones. So I'm going to sort of load my brush a little bit with the purple, dip it in the water, and then just from high up, squeeze it a little bit until we get, there we go. Again, in fact, I'm going to use my bigger brush to get this because I'll be able to get more water on it and therefore be able to get more out of it. Ha! In fact, I probably should have used this brush the whole time. Oh well. Different heights equals different sizes, and then just splash it a little bit. Okay, and then I'm just gonna leave them like that, I think. And then let's change the colour. We'll do a couple of blue ones, not as many as the purple, I don't think, because we have quite a lot of blue on here already. And then I'm gonna leave the pink because it's more of an outer edge colour anyway. And I'm gonna do some just white. The white splashes make it look messy, but I think considering it's already a bit of a mess, we should just let that go. And then I think just for a little bit of extra something, let's put some gold in. So I'm just gonna put the gold pretty much straight onto the brush because I don't have a place for it. Okay, so that didn't run off the way I would have liked, but I think that's probably enough bastardizing it. You take a bit of toilet roll and dab onto, ideally not the big bits that are actual thick paint, like there's a big gold bit right here which has come off as actual paint rather than the watery bit. But all the watery bits I'm going to just dry off because what that does is it leaves the sort of ring on the outside and takes the moisture away. 5 more minutes just to dry a little bit, and then we're going to peel this S off and see what we're dealing with underneath. Right, I'm going to probably regret this because not all of it is dry, but I can't be bothered waiting anymore. Let's take the S off. So you can already see some of my paint definitely got away from me. So we have a bit of a spillage here. I'm gonna try and, I guess it's just part of the effect really. When you put that much water on it, it is inevitable, unless the whole thing is flush flat, that some of it will run underneath, but I can lift it up and show you now. So I know I didn't really do too much talking you through it there, I was sort of in the zone, but to be honest, it's just a lot of trial and error. It's just making sure your stencil is stuck down. Using probably a big brush sponge I think would be the best, and doing a section at a time. Don't paint here and here and here and here and then go back to here with the water, because by the time you get to the top it will be dry again. So do a little bit at a time, paint on, water on, blend it, and then leave it to dry, and just do that all the way around. It's not super neat and it's not quite the soft blend that I thought it would be, but it looks super hand painted and custom made, which it is, which your bride will really appreciate. Like if you've gone to the effort to do this in a couple of places, one, it's cheaper than paying someone. Yeah, it's going to cost you more in time, but you will have made it and the bride can keep it. She can use it at the wedding. You could also do this as an activity during the hen weekend. So you could give everyone their own letter and let them choose a colour and just sit and do this. This is a really nice activity if you're not, you know, going like crazy partying, you're not going to go out dancing all night, you've not got loads of stuff to go out and do. At home DIY hens, not at home, but you know, local in venue rather than out and about. Hen parties, bachelorettes are becoming much bigger because of COVID-19. So looking for fun, nice stuff that you can do. This is really family friendly too. You know, you can do it with the mums, the aunts, the grandmas, whoever. This is one of those things. Okay, so I'm not going to take up any more of your time. I might do another video in future with this version where it's the opposite. So all of the watercolour and the paint and everything goes on the inside, on the S, and the rest of it is white. But for now, I will leave you with this and this weird face that I've done. Again, if you want to see any more of this kind of stuff, such as makeup videos where I make my face before I do these things sometimes, reaction videos where I react to episodes of Don't Tell the Bride and dress stuff, general guides and how-to for hen party planning and bachelorette and lots of other nonsense, please subscribe. You can hit the little bell because I only post once a week, so you're not going to get spammed with loads of stuff that you're not interested in. Alright, in the meantime, happy henning. Love you, bye!